12 Ways to Empower, Designing for Children's Digital Autonomy. While early digital computers and the internet were developed to serve defense, academic, and business purposes, these revolutionary tools have now effectively reshaped the life experiences of childhood. Yet, digital devices, the activities they support, and the ways children engage with such technologies are rapidly evolving. This has raised concerns and questions about how digital environments, including digital apps, services, systems, platforms, and more, are affecting children's well-being, and whether such environments adequately support their developmental needs. A traditional supposition has been that parents and caretakers would have the greater expertise and skill set than their children to guide their children's navigation of the digital space around them and help them learn. However, in today's digital age, this may not always be true. Children have grown up in the digital era in a way that interacting with digital environment is almost second nature to them, and for most of them, their parents could possess far less knowledge in this domain. This potential reverse in expertise calls for attention on the recent line of work promoting a gradual shift from a parent-teacher-led perspective to a child-centered, autonomy-supportive approach. In this paper, we seek to answer these two research questions as follows. Question 1. How does the SIGCHI literature conceptualize digital autonomy for children? Question 2. What autonomy-supportive design mechanisms have been explored in apps and systems for children? A systematic review was conducted on 68 research papers from the past 10 years, following the PRISMA statement. To start with, our analysis identified three groups of conceptualizations about digital autonomy from existing SIGCHI literature, namely, digital autonomy as the ability to develop intrinsic motivation and self-regulation, digital autonomy as the ability to make critical thinking and informed decisions, and finally, digital autonomy as computational thinking and literacy development. For each of these groups of conceptualization, we unpacked their theoretical underpinning and the context in which the concept was developed. Please refer to our paper for more details. From the identified research papers, we further distilled 12 design mechanisms for supporting children's digital autonomy, clustered into 5 overall categories by their common design mechanisms. The first category of design mechanisms were synthesized based on their mutual standing on providing external information inputs for children to develop digital autonomy. More specifically, such external information inputs were typically provided in a scaffolding manner, which originates from Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, ZPD. These design mechanisms provide children with support when they need it and help them to move through their gaps of knowledge. The second category of design mechanisms were synthesized based on their mutual standing on providing fictional context for children to develop digital autonomy. Thinking in abstract concepts could be difficult for children. These autonomy mechanisms were designed to break down somewhat complicated concepts into entities that are more approachable for children, and provide analogies and metaphors that make concepts easier for them to process and to relate to themselves. Design mechanisms in peer support category typically originates from their mutual standing on providing social context for children to develop digital autonomy. Design mechanisms in this category encourage social interaction between children and their peers. Unlike scaffolding mechanisms, peer support mechanisms encourage children to turn to their peers instead of adults. Comparing with the traditional parent-child support model, peer support contributes to higher levels of active engagement for children, as well as improvements in skills, self-confidence, and relationships. Design mechanisms from the digital playground category were synthesized based on their mutual standing on providing embodied context for children to develop digital autonomy. These designs encourage children to freely interact with a digital system which is connected with a physical artifact, thus extending the playground to the physical environment around them. The goal of these designs is typically around developing children's computational thinking and digital literacy. Finally, a nudge is defined as any aspect of the choice architecture that alters people's behavior in a predictable way without forbidding any option or significantly changing their economic incentive. These autonomy mechanisms were designed to impose subtle design changes that could alter children's behaviors and reinforce positive ones, and is closely related to the dual process theories. What should future designers consider when implementing and designing new types of autonomy mechanisms then? In order to provide more explicit support for future researchers and designers in their design quest for digital autonomy for children, we proposed 5 key design considerations. To start with, we recommend designers to consider identifying the critical points that could maximize influence. Secondly, we propose that future designs should put more emphasis on promoting self-generated knowledge in children, enable children to think critically on issues instead of just habituate to the instructions or cues, or being nudged without even realizing it. Alongside promoting self-generated knowledge in children, it is also important to consider translating short-term boosts into longitudinal benefits. Meanwhile, considering children's diverse needs and backgrounds, differentiation and personalization is critical to the effectiveness of designs. Finally, an important aspect for a successful autonomy mechanism is to ensure that prototypes allows for a low floor, high ceiling for children. Here, low floor refers to an easy start that does not require any prior formal knowledge and allows immediate exploration. And the high ceiling enables more flexibility and provides room for children to grow and to explore, especially for those children who were older or with more advanced ability. Digital technologies have been increasingly integrated into children's everyday lives. However, what it means by supporting children's autonomy in the digital environment and how to achieve that remains an open question. Our findings provided a critical understanding of current support for children's digital autonomy in the current HCI research and identified critical factors and gaps to be considered for future more autonomy-supportive designs. We hope this research will provide a timely input in the HCI and child-computer interaction communities and provide a foundation for future designers for children to reflect on what might it mean by designing to support children's autonomy. Thank you for your time.